I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I built a 7-figure business with no degree, no investors, and no safety net. And if you think you need any of those things to succeed, you're wrong. In this video, I'm going to destroy every excuse you've been telling yourself about why you can't start a business. Because here's the thing, I used to tell myself the exact same lies. And they almost kept me broke forever. 8 years ago, I was $35,000 in debt, my car got repossessed, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, had to pay our rent because I couldn't afford it. But today, my businesses have generated over $5 million in revenue. I moved to Dubai and my wife hasn't had to work in almost 6 years. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it by busting the 6 biggest myths that are keeping you stuck. Now, before I dive in, I want you to understand something. This isn't some motivational video. This isn't me telling you it's going to be easy. It took me 8 years to get to 7 figures. I failed twice. I went bankrupt twice. I lost my employees also twice. But every single setback taught me something that made me stronger. And by the way, I'm just getting this channel off the ground, so hitting subscribe is completely free for you, but it's really valuable for me. And I promise that in return, I'll keep earning your trust with the best content I can make to help you earn more money and build a better business. So thanks for the love and let's get into it. So let's start with myth number 1, and it's I don't have money to start. And this is the biggest lie people tell themselves. You know what I started with? I started with an old laptop and my phone. That's it. I had no fancy office, no business cards, no website, nothing. Hell, I didn't have a car to drive to meetings because the bank repossessed it, remember? And when I needed to meet clients, I couldn't afford to rent an office. So you know what I did? I met them in hotel lobbies. So I'd call them up and say, hey, I'm on the road today, but I know this nice hotel where we can grab a coffee and talk. So 2 coffees. That was my office rent for the day. And I remember one meeting, I was so nervous because I thought the client would figure out I was broke. But you know what happened? He was impressed. It's really funny. He thought I was this successful businessman who traveled a lot. And to be honest, I didn't correct him. But the perception of a meeting at a nice hotel was, for me then, better than a fancy office would have given me. Because the pressure of having no money actually made me better, because when you're broke, you get creative, you just hustle harder. You don't waste money on stupid stuff that doesn't really matter. You focus on what actually brings in revenue. You know, I see people today who raise $50,000, $100,000 to start their business and then they blow it all on logos and websites and fancy office furniture and whatnot. And meanwhile, I'm out here making deals with a 10-year-old laptop and a hand-me-down iPhone. And you know, some of my biggest competitors started with investor money and they failed because they got kind of comfortable too fast. They never learned to hustle or to grind for what they wanted. Myth number 2, I don't know what kind of business to start. Yeah, well, know what? Neither did I. I didn't wake up one day and think, oh, I want to be a recruiter. I was working for this big recruitment firm and during training they told us they charge a minimum of $10,000 for placing a candidate, and that night I stayed up until 3 in the morning writing my first business plan. I found out about the earning potential. I just thought, okay, well, this is my ticket out. That's it. I didn't have some grand passion for helping people find jobs. I just wanted to make money and get out of debt. I knew nothing about customer service, accounting, payroll, running a team, or whatever you also need to know to run a business. Nothing. I didn't know how to write a contract, I didn't know how to handle taxes, I didn't even know how to properly interview a candidate. But here's what I did. I learned by doing. I made my first cold call and it was terrible. I was sweating, I was stumbling over my words, and I probably sounded like a complete amateur. And you know why? Because I was. But I made another call and another, and each one got a little better. I took courses when I could afford them, I asked other business owners questions, and I hired coaches when I finally had some money coming in. You don't need to know everything before you start, really. You just need to know enough to take the first step. You put one foot in front of the other, and you figure out the rest as you go. And trust me, the market will teach you faster than any coach or course ever will anyway. I see people spending months even years trying to learn everything before they start, and they're reading books and they're taking courses and they're watching YouTube videos. Keep watching this one, but they never actually start. So stop procrastinating and start today. If you do one thing today, even if it's a small one, you will be closer to your goal than when you got up this morning. Myth 3. I live in the wrong place. And this one makes me actually laugh every time, because you know where I started? I started in Belgium, one of the countries with the highest taxes and payroll costs in the world. You know where most of my clients were? All over Europe, even some in the Middle East and Africa. I've made millions from people I've never met in person. I've never shook their hand. I never sat in the same room as them. And everything was done over the phone, email, and video calls. Location doesn't matter anymore. The internet changed everything anyway. I had clients in 3 continents or 20 countries. It didn't matter where I was living. It didn't matter where I was working from. No, if anything, being in a smaller place is an advantage. You've got less competition, lower costs, and more hungry people willing to work hard. Now, today I live in Dubai, and you know what? It's not because I had to move here for business. It's because I wanted to, because my business gave me the freedom to live anywhere I wanted. Now, every country has highly successful business owners, and if they can get out, so can you. And if for some obscure reason there are no opportunities in your country, then do as I did and find clients in other countries. They don't care where you're from anyway. Myth number 4. I don't have the right skills. I was a car mechanic before this. A car mechanic. I left school as soon as I could because I hated it. I was diagnosed with ADHD, I couldn't sit still, I always got in trouble. You know, what skills did being a car mechanic give me for recruitment? Again, nothing. Yeah, well, actually, that's not entirely true. It taught me to work with my hands, and it also taught me that problems have solutions if you're willing to dig deep enough. But it sure as hell didn't teach me how to sell or how to find candidates. But here's what I learned. You only need 2 skills to start a business. You need to be able to sell, and you need to be able to deliver what you promised. Everything else you can learn, or you can hire somebody else to do. I learned to recruit by recruiting. I had no idea what I was doing, but I figured it out as I went, and I learned to sell by selling. And my first sales call, I told you, was a disaster. I was so nervous, I forgot half of what I was going to say, but I kept making calls, and each one got better. The skills you think you need, you will develop them. And the skills you think you don't have, well, I guess you probably already have more than you realize. You know, the job you hate right now, or you want to get out of, it's teaching you something. You know, I see people who think they need to go back to school, get an MBA, learn coding or whatever. But the most successful people I know learn by doing and not by studying. And you know what the funny thing is? The people with the fancy master's degrees are now working for me instead of the other way around. So keep your head down and outwork everybody. Myth number 5, my family is against it. Oh man, this hits close to home. My family was absolutely against me starting a business. My mother and my sister literally shouted at me. They said I was delusional. They said I shouldn't believe all the lies people tell about making money in business. And I remember a conversation where my sister said, "Quentin, you need to stop dreaming and get a real job. You have responsibilities." And my mom was crying, telling me I was going to waste years of my life, and they wanted me to get a safe job, and security was more important than dreams. You know, I get it. They were scared for me. They saw me fail before with an insurance pyramid scheme thing, and they knew about the $35,000 in debt. But here's the thing. Their fear was based on their experience and not mine. They never built a business. They never took that risk. So how could they know what was possible? You can't let other people's fears become your limitations, even when those people love you and want what's best for you. Now, sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who will try to keep you small, and not because they're bad people, but because your success makes them question their own choices. Now, my family is proud of what I built, let me reassure you. My mom brags about me to her friends, but in the beginning, I had just to tune out their voices and listen to my own. Myth number 6, I need job security. Security is an illusion. You know what's not secure? Being $35,000 in debt with a repossessed car. And you know what's also not secure? Depending on someone else to pay you every month, hoping they don't fire you or downsize your department. I never really handled the fear of leaving security, I just lived with it, I dealt with it until it was over. But you know what I realized? The biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. When I was working for that big recruitment firm, I thought I had security. I mean, I had a steady paycheck, benefits, all the nice stuff, but I was making someone else rich while I stayed broke. They were charging clients tens of thousands of dollars for a placement and I was just getting a tiny commission. And the moment I realized I could be the one doing the thing, but just for myself, well, everything changed. You know, why make someone else rich when you can build your own business? My first breakthrough was my first deal. You know, $12,000. I remember the exact moment the client said yes. I was pacing on the driveway, too nervous to sit down. I had the phone pressed to my ear, and when he agreed to hire my candidate, I just stood there in silence for a few seconds. But it was proof I could do it. It was proof I could make money on my own. And no, for the first time in years, I actually felt like I had control over my life. But yeah, then it really hit because I went 5 months without another deal. And 5 months is a very long time to have no income. And I was living off savings that really didn't exist, and I was watching my bank account get smaller and smaller. And there were nights I couldn't sleep wondering if I made the biggest mistake of my life. You know, maybe my family was right after all. Maybe I should just get a job and forget about this whole business owner thing. But something inside me refused to quit, and maybe it was desperation. But I kept making calls, kept sending emails. I kept believing that the next deal was just around the corner. And then it happened. My second deal. $13,000 after 5 months of absolute zero. And that's when I knew I was going to make it. And not because it was easy, but because I was willing to do what others weren't. I was willing to push through when everything looked bad or hopeless, or however you want to call it. So here's the truth, nobody wants to tell you. I'm just a regular guy with no academic background whatsoever who made it through trial and error. It took me 8 years to get to 7 figures. 8 years of mistakes, setbacks, learnings, and everything you want. There were times I wanted to quit, times I thought maybe I just wasn't cut out for this, but every single excuse we just talked about, I used to believe them too. And they almost kept me broke forever. The difference between successful people and everyone else isn't talent, it's not luck, it's not having the right connections or the perfect background. It's being willing to start before you're ready. It's being willing to fail and get back up. It's being willing to do what's uncomfortable. Most people will watch this video and do nothing. Probably they'll nod along and maybe even feel inspired for a few minutes. But then they'll go back to their comfortable excuses. They'll keep waiting for the perfect moment that never comes, by the way. So here's my challenge to you. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for that perfect moment. And stop thinking you need permission from anyone to change your life. If you want to learn exactly how I built my recruitment business from nothing, I've got a free workbook that breaks down everything step by step. It shows you how to find your first clients, how to make your first placement, how to build a business that gives you freedom. The link is in the description below. Download it, read it, but more importantly, act on it. Your dreams are waiting, but they're not going to wait forever. The question is, are you going to keep making excuses or are you going to start building the life you actually want? So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.